Hi everyone. What is it really like to live alone in rural China on a low income? For many people, life here is simple, quiet, and very different from what most of us are used to. In this video, we'll take a closer look at what daily life actually looks like. Mornings here are often quiet and start early. In China, breakfast is often seen as an important start to the day. Even in rural areas, people still take the time to prepare a simple morning meal. In some places, not every home has access to natural gas. So people make do with what they have, using electric stoves or sometimes lighting a wood fire to cook. For someone living alone, meals are quiet moments. There's no rush, no noise, just the process of preparing and eating. It may seem basic, but it reflects a way of life that focuses on necessity rather than convenience. But do people here ever go out for breakfast? In many cases, they do. Alongside cooking at home, small local stalls offer a variety of simple breakfast options. Around here, most shops don't open until about 10 in the morning,
你好，
except for
两
the
个包子
breakfast
多少
stalls.
钱？8块
For
钱。
example,
好的，
a
给
simple
你。
breakfast with
谢谢，
steamed
慢走
buns,
哦。
eggs, and soy milk can cost from around 0.3 US dollars, roughly 2 yuan, up to about $1 for a full meal. Besides that, you'll find many similar breakfast options in villages all across China, often at similar prices. What about you? Where you live? Do you prefer cooking at home or going out to buy something?
这蒜很新鲜，3块钱。
好的，谢谢。
After breakfast, most of the day is usually spent working. Living alone means there's always something to take care of. In many rural areas, that often starts with small, practical tasks: feeding animals, collecting eggs, or watering a small garden. Some spend hours working the land, while others focus on maintaining what they already have. There's rarely a clear break between chores. One task simply leads to the next. Watching this, I start to notice how much of the day is built around these small routines. Nothing feels rushed, yet nothing really stops either. The work may seem simple at first, but it takes time, patience, and consistency. Day after day, the routine doesn't change much. It just quietly continues. This is Shaila, a 50-year-old woman living alone in rural China. She works as a seamstress in a small workshop just about 50 meters from her home. Because it's so close, and with everything else she has to take care of, she usually comes back home around noon to cook lunch and get some rest, sometimes taking the time to do a few more chores if needed. This is what's known as mixed noodles. It costs only about 1.5 yuan to make, roughly 21 cents. After lunch, Shaila heads out to fertilize her vegetable beds. She uses chicken manure that's been composted beforehand, which works really well for growing plants. Back where I'm from, this is also something people use quite often. The walk seems a bit far, so she uses a small three-wheeled vehicle to get there. It looks simple, but also really practical. I got curious and looked it up, and it turns out these vehicles are very common in rural China. What surprised me even more is that a lot of people in the US actually like them too, because of how useful they are for getting around and carrying things. It's interesting to see how something so simple from the countryside can become popular in other parts of the world. These days, fewer young people in China grow up working on farms. In the past, helping out in the fields was just a normal part of daily life. But over time, things have changed. And for some, that simple, hands-on way of living is something they still quietly miss. Around midday, there's often little time to rest. After taking care of the garden, it's back to work again in the afternoon. You might be wondering, why do so many of the houses here look old and not often renovated? One reason is that in many of these villages, most of the younger generation have already left to work in larger cities and don't return very often. What's left are mostly older residents, living on their own, keeping things simple. From what I've seen, for many of them, it's not really about upgrading the house. It's about having a place that's enough somewhere that provides shelter and a sense of peace. In some cases, they also rely on basic government support. In China, people can start receiving support around the age of 60, which helps cover part of their daily needs. And over time, this kind of lifestyle just continues without much change. And as the day goes on, life here continues in much the same rhythm. By the end of the day, it's time to head back home. At the end of the day, Shyla writes down what she's managed to get done. It's a small habit, but it seems to help her feel a little more grounded. This is just part of everyday life in rural China. Nothing feels rushed, and yet the days still pass, one after another. In a way, it's not so different from life anywhere else. And in a world that keeps moving faster, it makes you wonder, what really matters in the end?